So I think I'm going to be making a few more Steven Universe videos before branching out to a different type of content. But if you really want to see more Steven Universe videos, leave a comment or something. I mean, I don't care. I'm not your dad. But with that, let's get into it. Steven Universe is and will always be a show with mystery and a plethora of lore. It may not be as big as Gravity Falls, where in just about literally every single episode there's a ton of cryptic messages that lead to the major reveals in the show, but the answer to one of the biggest questions was anticipated for seasons on end. Who really is Rose Quartz? Now before I get into this, I wanted to make a disclaimer. There are major spoilers for the series. If you want to watch the show without spoilers, I highly suggest you click off now. Please. Getting that out the way, throughout the show, Rose Quartz, or Pink Diamond so to say, has had a ton of mixed opinions specifically in the fandom, with multiple videos analyzing, or really just ranting, about Pink Diamond being a bad person. Now that the show is over, more people have switched their opinions about her, but it still seems like the majority of people who watch the show still have a bitter taste about her past actions, from lack of responsibility to emotional abuse. But is Pink Diamond really a bad being? Does this character really deserve to hate from the community? Or is this character forever to be misunderstood for a very long time? I want to go over a small recap of the character and give my thoughts on the opinions of the fans of the show. The sections of the video should be timestamped either on screen or in the description. One thing I will say is that context is extremely important to understand characters, and this show is no different.
Yo.
Pink was arguably the reason why everyone hated Rose Quartz, considering they are the same gem, but never mind that. Pink was the youngest of the Diamond Authority, the rulers of Homeworld inhabited by gems, blah blah blah, most people should know this by now. From multiple flashbacks, we can tell that Pink was represented as a mere child of the elite, with the Diamonds recollecting her silly and playful attitude as well as the presence of Spinel. As a child, however, many emotions and actions can be present. From flashbacks on Steven's end, Pink would be locked away by Blue for her wrongdoings. Pink also damaged Pink Pearl, throwing tantrums left and right as Pink Pearl states in volleyball, but I will get into that later on. Pink had wanted a colony more than anything, so when she finally had Earth as her first colony, Pink wanted to prove that she was, in fact, actually responsible and mature enough to handle what she asked Blue and Yellow so much for, to the point where she left Spinel alone because she didn't want them to think that she was a mere child anymore. With that out the way, a new Pearl was assigned to Pink, the one we all know and love, and the original Pink Pearl was taken into White's care. After Bird Mom told Pink that the kindergarten was running, Pink disguised herself as a Rose Quartz, as per Pearl's idea, to explore the planet. Later realizing that making gems would take away life and leave nothing behind, Pink tried convincing Blue and Yellow to stop colonization. When Pink talked about humans, Blue made the zoo, which is also important later on. Her opinions and status didn't mean anything so much to the other Diamonds, so Pink would decide to take matters into her own hands, create a persona that the other Diamonds wouldn't be able to ignore. Thus, the quote-unquote legacy of Rose Quartz began. Rose Quartz to many was the embodiment of perfection. To others, she was a ruthless war criminal. But one thing was clear, she was an amazing leader. Jasper even admitted this in the return that she respected her tactics. In the beginning, Pearl and Rose were known as the Crystal Gems, or rebels to Homeworld. After seeing a fusion, Garnet to be more specific, for the first time, Rose was inspired and her perspective changed. Not only did she want to fight for Earth, but she wanted to fight for the freedom of gems, for the ability to find their own path. After Garnet joined the Crystal Gems, the war kicked into full swing. Millions and millions of gems were shattered in the process, but they kept on going, being loyal to Rose as she was their leader after all. Her morals were always rooted in peace, which led to Bismuth, blacksmith of the Crystal Gems, being poofed after she wanted to shatter the diamonds with her newest weapon at the time, called the Breaking Point. Soon after, Rose wanted Pink Diamond to be gone permanently, and so Pearl and Rose staged Pink's shattering, with Pearl eating fake shards, which later dramatized Pearl into disinterest for eating, as well as shape-shifting later on in the future. After the quote-unquote shattering, the 3 remaining diamonds launched a full-on attack on all gems currently residing in Earth in order to do a clean wipe on any remaining crystal gems. Known as the Corrupting Light, the blast destroyed the minds of gems and altered their physical forms to mere monsters. As Garnet describes it, it's sort of like if MC Bear Bear didn't tear the fabric of his arm, but the fabric of his mind. The only ones who survived were Garnet, Pearl, and Rose with Rose's shield, and this attack marked the end of the rebellion. As time moved forward, the crystal gems found Amethyst and decided to bubble any corrupted gems for the safety of humanity. Later on in the 80s and 90s, I refer to the 1980s and the 1990s, Rose actually found Greg Universe during one of his concerts where she was the only person there. It's pretty sad. Greg then throws away his musical career in order for him to be with Rose, which at the time didn't want to get in the way of his aspirations. While Greg is with Rose, he himself sees Fusion for the first time while shooting a music video and is mesmerized to see it in person. Meanwhile, Pearl calls him a phase and says that she only likes her because he's a human. So naturally, Greg decides to try and fuse with Rose in order to prove Pearl wrong. While attempting to do so, Garnet and Amethyst approach him, with Garnet actually giving him advice of opening up and being honest, really believing in him that he can actually fuse with Rose. After his attempt goes seemingly wrong, Rose laughs at his attempt, saying that humans are so funny, giving Greg the realization that she may like him but doesn't actually respect him. After Greg asks Rose to act like an actual person, she stops and reveals that she doesn't actually know how human relationships work and that she always thought that this was how it was supposed to be. What follows are both being really confused and actually starting to talk to each other, which actually deepens their relationship. When Pearl complains that it didn't work, Garnet disagrees and Amethyst says, "This one is my favorite," in which Pearl starts to realize that she chose Greg over her. Shortly after, Rose gets pregnant and has Steven, having to give up her physical form in order for Steven to exist, and that's how Steven Universe really started, I guess. Now I want to actually take a look at the effects Rose left on everyone in the series, starting with Steven. You know, the guy that the show is based off of. Steven is the son of Rose, and so after all that she's done, it's obvious that Steven has to carry on her legacy. You could try and argue that he didn't need to be with the gems, but his powers saved the world, and specifically Beach City, multiple times. From literally episode 2, Laser Light Cannon, Steven accidentally knew the catchphrase for the light cannon to blow up the red eye, which by the way actually came from Homeworld. Then Steven used to shield an ocean gem, and then there's Jasper's ship in the return, in which he blocked a whole laser from a ship that even the fusion opal couldn't scratch. Then there's the whole situation with the cluster and the gem experiments. Even if the gems actually caught Peridot and convinced her to help with the drill, there's no way the cluster would have been stopped, especially with Malachite around. I'm just pointing out that he was eventually going to deal with all this, which before having Steven, the gems knew literally nothing about anything that I'm talking about. I would genuinely get angry if Rose thought Steven wouldn't have to deal with gem stuff with the exception of corrupted gems, because personally I feel like that would be a severe oversight on Rose's end. Throughout his journey as a teenager learning to control his powers, Steven was surrounded by those who had such a high appreciation of Rose with the influence she left. All of the crystal gems and his dad also saw Rose as a perfect warrior and a loving being, and the pressure was specifically on Steven for wanting to become like her, considering how highly she was actually talked about throughout the show, especially with her healing powers, which Steven struggles with throughout the show. However, throughout the series, we see the events of Rose played somewhat backward, as learning the revelation that she was pink essentially broke everyone for a bit, with Garnet splitting for like 2 episodes, Pearl being upset, and Amethyst being bothered that Steven didn't have an opinion at all about it. From then on, everyone didn't like her, but didn't stray away from the impact that she had on the crystal gems. Without her, there wouldn't be a crystal gems in the first place. In the movie and future, everyone has seemed to move on from the situation, being stronger mentally as a result, besides Steven, in which multiple times throughout future he attempts to try and put the past behind him. I'm not going into exactly what Steven does, because I feel like you should watch future for yourself, but it actually backfires pretty quickly, and yeah, it turns pretty catastrophic. Moving on to Garnet, she was the reason Rose fought for gems as well as Earth, and Garnet was obviously influenced by Rose, considering she specifically was the one that told Garnet not to question their relationship or anything really. This is apparent when Garnet told Steven in the off-colors about the story of Rose, which was later confirmed to be falsified. This also happened when Garnet explained the human zoo, in which she described it as a place where Pink Diamond kept humans as trophies for her conquest. When her identity was revealed, Garnet split as Sapphire, as she thought that her relationship was built off an entire lie. So you get the idea that she was very influenced, and not just as a loving aspect. Garnet viewed Rose as an amazing and flawless leader, something that she herself struggles with throughout the show, trying to keep everyone intact. Moving on to Amethyst, she was more or less a child. She was found after the war and corruption occurred, so she didn't really have any experience in the actual war, but Rose still cared for her and told her that she was perfect the way she was, reflecting her appearance issues in the show. Pearl wasn't actually the only one who was upset about something involving Rose and Greg's relationship, but I'll get into that later. Greg and Amethyst were actually really close friends, apparently watching TV for days straight at a time. While she was initially supportive of Greg and Rose, Amethyst got furious when Rose spent more time with Greg, which prompted her to blame Greg and the relationship, and thus their friendship was cut at a time. However, currently in the show, Greg and Amethyst are on good terms. Now moving on to Pearl, however, with her, she is a completely different story. Pearl was essentially besotted with Rose, being with her since the beginning of the war, having fantasies of her. Oh jeez. We see multiple times throughout the original show that Pearl has struggled to move on from losing Rose, and specifically dislike Greg for being around to swoop Rose off her feet. She stayed somewhat stagnant until Mr. Greg with their relationship, showing obvious disinterest towards him specifically. Pearl apparently put everything on Rose, over logic, over consequence, over her own life as Garnet states in Sworn to the Sword, and even going as far as to put her sacrificial ideologies on Connie, making a 12-year-old think that she's nothing during a war battle, which obviously makes sense. Right guys? And then at the end of the episode she has a breakdown saying, "Why won't you let me do this for you, Rose?" Proving that she did want Steven to be protected at all costs. But it shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be like this. With Pearl specifically, we don't exactly see her true self until towards the end of the show, as she was the most affected by Rose's shenanigans, as you could say, and her role in Pink's life actually reflects this. In the episode Rose's Scabbard, Pearl finds out that Rose had a line and freaks out because she believed that she out of everyone else would know, which prompts her to run after everyone has an argument. After being told the biggest lie and cover-up in the entirety of Homeworld history, Pearl had the idea that Pink wouldn't keep anything from her, considering how big the quote-unquote shattering was. So when Pearl screams, "None of you had what we had," this is one of those situations which made her feel this way. Honestly, I can kind of understand Pearl's feelings for Greg. Like, imagine being with someone for thousands of years and then some random guy falls in love with her and then, boom, a few months later she's essentially gone forever. But the thing is, it isn't even that simple too. In the flashback from We Need to Talk, Pearl calls Greg a phase, which sounds snarky. I mean, it was, but she technically isn't wrong. You gotta keep in mind that Rose liked tons of people before Greg, and probably went through tons of people through millennia before Greg, so it's understandable that she makes those remarks to Greg considering Rose's nature at the time. But never mind that. In my last Steven Universe video, I briefly mentioned that time isn't so much a problem or concept compared to humans, as gems can essentially live forever so long as they aren't corrupted or shattered. Like, Pearl even makes a one-off joke about returning Steven in only 50 years, and in season 1 Steven gets grounded from TV for 1,000 years. These one-off jokes are pretty funny when overlooked, but not really when you consider that these gems are legitimately aliens. As for Bismuth, she was caught in an argument with Rose, leading Bismuth to be proved in Hidden Lion's main, but I think I'm going to talk about that a little more later. But for now, I think we need to get into the videos. Oh my god. This is just... I don't even know how to describe it. When the bombshell dropped that Rose was pink, everyone was jumping on the hate bandwagon, including me, but I don't think I ranted about it. Maybe I did and I just forgot about it. But today I just want to bring up some videos specifically talking about a character. The Kill Yourself video from Swaggy Thunder and the Pink Diamond Reverse Development video by The Roundtable. But today I'm going to start with Swaggy's video. And I'm going to just say that his video isn't really that good today. At the time, everyone was on the hate train and his video was uploaded literally a day after A Single Pale Rose aired. He did get some flack for the video and it's actually one of his most popular. It was a dumb idea telling my viewers to watch the video considering the date and now that the show's actually over. You gotta keep in mind that this was before the movie was announced, before Future was even a possibility in people's minds, and before season 5 even ended. With that being said, it may be a dated video, but it's definitely a funny one.
When Steven was like, "Am I just your scapegoat? Am I just here so you can get away scot-free without any remorse?" And Rose was like, "You really think I'd do that to you?" And Steven was like, "Nah, okay, you right." Psych! Yeah, she did!
That joke will never not be funny to me. Oh yeah, editing geek here. I found a video that Swaggy addresses some of the things that he said in his video that I mentioned earlier, and so I quickly wanted to talk about it. This video is specifically about understanding Pink's actions and trying to justify some of the things that she did. One thing that he does is he actually predicts who exactly made the zoo, and he explicitly states in his videos that while her actions weren't justified and that he still personally doesn't like the character, calling her out mindlessly wouldn't be really fair. I think it's a good step back. Both of these videos will be in the description, by the way. Also, talking about the kill yourself video, he does mention some questions about what actually are Steven's fusions, considering he isn't a quartz and every fusion that isn't Steven is an actual gemstone in real life. Considering how disturbed Steven was from a simple picture of his mother, I don't think his quartz fusions were only named quartz, and that this was just a severe oversight from the crew's perspective that Steven decided to brush a name off like that, but that's what I think. Moving on to the roundtable, this was by Ostrich Vox. Say what you want about the guy, I don't actually hate him. You can ramble about his theories and stuff all you want, but you gotta respect how far he's come since this. With that in mind, this is the most recent video, and yeah, Vox does actually a really good job in not being biased. He actually talks about both sides of the character, even addressing the past videos his channels had about Pink, going as far as to go after points both sides make to actually justify their own opinion, like Rose herself saying Rose was kind of an awful person, and the clip where Rose laughs at Greg, explaining that he wasn't actually on any side and that he was waiting until the finale of Future, in which he believed Steven will find out later how he really feels about Pink Diamond. And while that didn't turn out to be exactly the case in the end, he did stand his ground and had the patience for the chance of Steven figuring out his actual emotions about it, and I have nothing but respect for that. Now, this video did come out after volleyball, so he had a lot more stuff to talk about, but most of the things he said held up for the most part, and I think that video should be the one you watch. So what is my verdict on Pink Diamond? Pink Diamond is a very complex character, and there's no doubt that she's a very morally gray character. At this point, with the amount of controversy and discussion that the community sparked, it's mainly up to interpretation. In my personal opinion, I don't think she should be summarized with one-word labels. She went from throwing tons of tantrums reminiscent of a child and being raised in an abusive household to genuinely understanding different life forms and protecting the planet. However, her improvement doesn't let her off scot-free from her dismissiveness and inconsideration of others, as well as the secrets that she hid. With the episode Volleyball, Pink Pearl kept making excuses for Pink's damage to her eye, but when Steven turned into his pink self and screamed, she actually cowered in fear. And before being nearly rejuvenated, Pearl actually apologized for not believing Volleyball, saying that she was still hurt regardless and that she herself didn't actually stop hurting. This episode gave the message that abuse is still abuse, intentional or not. Pink Pearl, aka Volleyball, was affected by physical abuse, and Pearl was affected with mental abuse. And though her new persona as Rose Quartz, while her intentions may not have been filled with malice, the emotional baggage that came along would still be present. Bismuth being bubbled and lying about it to the gems, Garnet being asked not to question anything, forbidding Pearl from telling anyone Rose's true identity, not telling Pearl about lying, all of these things were figured out later on in the show and arguably caused more pain than if Rose had told them before Steven was born. And while Rose may have been considerate for how they would feel at the time, I'm not sure she considered about how they would adjust moving forward, which looks like the main reason she took those secrets to the grave. However, I won't steer away from the fact that she did learn to change and actually improve herself. Actually looking at the story in chronological order would probably change your perspective, like it changed for me. And things shouldn't be taken out of context in order for your point to be relevant, like the We Need to Talk clip or the Rebecca Sugar comment from the Steven Universe podcast. Like I said before, I think Pink Diamond as a character is more or less up to interpretation. So I think I'm done here. I wanted to make a video like this for a while now that the show has ended, and I hope everyone enjoyed. If you want, like, comment, sub. Again, I'm not your dad. Next Steven Universe video will be either about leaks or about the rant videos on YouTube, but those aren't guaranteed to be my next videos in general. But yeah, this is me, the Geek TCM, and I'm out. Also stream Avatar The Last Airbender. Do it! Also, I'm taking a 2-week break off of YouTube because I'm so tired.